this live broadcast on making your spells work. This broadcast is mainly for witches who are new, but if you are a advanced or experienced witch and you really want to know the truth about making your spells work, then this live broadcast here on YouTube presented by myself, High Priestess Orson Phoenix, is for you. So definitely come in, definitely bring in other witches who are really interested in making their spells work. For some witches, many of you witches here, finally making your spells work. Because there's nothing worse than being a witch and your spell does not work the way you intended. It takes a lot of work to make a spell work. It's not easy. It's not easy to make a spell work. You might think of spell work, what you see on TV, movies. Forget about that. Forget about TV and movies. We're talking about real witchcraft. We are talking about working with the energy found in nature to bring about real, significant, and permanently positive change. That is the definition of witchcraft. Working with the energy found in nature to bring about real, significant, and permanently positive change. Once again, my name is High Priestess Orson Phoenix. This broadcast is for witches, new witches especially, who are interested in finally making their spells work. The number one way, and I do mean the number one way, to make your spells work is to do something that I am famous for promoting, and that is real world action. What is real world action? Real world action is this type of example. You have a big test coming up, so you want to pass the test. You cast a spell to pass the test, but guess what, witch? You still have to study for the test. It's not enough to just do a spell and do nothing else. You have to do what I am famous for promoting, and I do take credit for this because not many high priests, not many high priestesses is even talking about real world action. You can do a spell to pass a test, but guess what, witches? You still have to study for that same test. You have to do something. Something else I'm proud to say I invented is you have to put in effort. Nothing changes if nothing changes. If you want to pass that test, you have to put in actual effort. You cannot study for a test the day before the test. You cannot cast a spell the day before the test and think you're going to pass, because you have not had enough time to study for that test. You are going to fail that test, period. That's it. That's it. A lot of people become witches because they wrongly believe that by being a witch, all their problems will go away. Witchcraft does not make all your problems go away. Witchcraft changes the way you interact with your problems. Witchcraft does not make all your problems go away. Witchcraft changes how you interact with your problems. Witches don't solve any problems. Witches solve the energy, and then the problems solve themselves. That's how witchcraft works. That's how spells work. That's how rituals and curses and hexes work. But too many witches, too many people become witches because they want everything to finally start going their way. That can happen. It happens to me. It happens to members of my coven. It happens to other covens. It happens to other witches and high priests and high priestesses that talk like I am right now. But you have to do real world action if you want your spells to work. There is nothing worse than a witch doing a spell and then the spell not working. Did you work? Did you put any actual effort into making that spell work? Yes or no? Answer the question. You don't have to necessarily answer to me, but you have to be honest with yourself. When you are a witch, you have to go harder. You have to be better. You have to want to be better. You have to be fierce. You have to be passionate. You have to be on fire for the change that you are seeking. I often say that the best spells that are cast is the spells I say that the best spells that are cast are the spells in which your intuition told you to cast. If you suddenly get a burst of motivation, of inspiration, you feel like you have to do something right now, you have to cast a particular spell right now, do it. Even if that urge is at 3 o'clock in the morning. Get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and cast that spell. If you listen to your intuition before you cast a spell, that spell will work. Why? Because it came from your intuition. Or it may have came from your chosen God or goddess or ancestor or familiar or spirit animal. But for me personally, it's my intuition. When you listen to your intuition, when you act on your intuition, you hear your intuition more. The more you ignore and downplay your intuition, soon you will not hear your intuition at all, because you sent the message to your intuition that you're not going to do what it said anyway, which is stupid. It's stupid for a witch to ignore his or her intuition. It's stupid for a witch to ignore his or her intuition. And let me say this also. You might have just heard me say him or his. Yes, let me say this. A witch can be a man. A witch can be a man. You cannot cut off witchcraft based on somebody's sex. Being a witch has always been open to both genders. So yes, let me just say this. Men can be witches too. I know that's controversial, but you can't gatekeep witchcraft. Why? Because you can't control what somebody else do in their own home. You can't. You're not with this person. You're not in this person's home. You can't gatekeep. You can't tell somebody else what to do and then stupidly believe that they're going to actually listen to you and obey what you told them not to do. They're going to probably do more of it. So yes, men can be witches too. I know that's so controversial, and I know so many witches hate when I say that, but it's true. Men can also be witches too. Witchcraft, witches have always been open to both genders. Men can be witches. Don't get mad at me. Take it up with Hecate, the queen of witches, and see how far you get with that. You won't get far. But yes, men can be witches. Now let's get back to the topic at hand, making your spells work. When you write a spell, listen very carefully. When you write a spell, you have to be very detailed. You don't have to be too detailed, like super detailed in your spell writing, but you have to be detailed enough so that the universe, your chosen God or goddess or Hecate knows what you are asking for. Hecate, your chosen God or goddess, will work out the kinks, work out the details, but you have to be as detailed as you can. What do you want your spell to do? That's a serious question that you need to ask yourself. What do you want out of that spell? Money, love, a house, a car. Let me say this also. It's not materialistic to want a nice house, a nice car, clothes, jewelry, food, your bills paid, 2 houses, 4 houses. That's not materialistic because it's not materialistic to you. Because you are the witch casting a spell to get the house, car, clothes, jewelry, man, woman, career, wealth. It's not materialistic to you. So don't look at me like, oh, it's materialistic to want money. It's materialistic to want 2 cars, 4 houses, 10 houses. That's not materialistic to you. That's what you want. That's why I just said, what do you want out of that spell? What do you want it to do? So for example, if you are writing your own spell, I would speak in present tense. So I would say, I have a car. Speak it, write it as though you already have it. Don't speak it in the way of, I wish I had a car. I wish I had a house. I wish I had love. I wish I had money. No, speak it as though you already have it. So if you are saying your spell out loud or writing your spell down, say it as though it has already worked. Don't speak with doubt. As witches, and you should know this, witches have creative power in their tongue. Witches have creative power in their tongue. That means that witches can create and destroy. Witches can create and destroy with the power of their tongue. So that's why I also tell witches, be careful with what you say. Be careful with what you say. Because witches have creative and destructive power. So when you write a spell or even a hex or a curse, so let's say you want to curse someone. You say in present tense, I want this person to drive off of a bridge. You speak it, you write it as though that person has already crashed off of a bridge. You know, when a witch curses someone or hexes someone, it's because that witch has been pushed past their limit. A witch does not curse someone for no good reason. For a witch to have cursed you, you must have pushed them past their limit and there is no coming back. When a witch curses someone, most likely that person will die. When I say die, I mean that's it. They are either buried or cremated. When a witch hexes someone, they may break their neck and be in the hospital for like 2 months. So let me say this. A curse kills someone. A hex puts them in the hospital, they recover and then go home. You see, a curse is worse than a hex. A hex is not so bad. A curse is just death. The person will die. But witches do not release the energy of a curse so easily for no good reason. So if you want to hex someone, you say, I want this person to trip over their own feet. Nobody really dies from tripping over their own feet, but everybody dies from jumping off of a bridge. You see the difference? I know this sounds kind of harsh and kind of, how can you say that? How can you talk about death? How can you talk about death and witchcraft like this? Because it's true. Maybe that's why, because it's true. And a lot of witches are afraid to curse, afraid to hex someone. Some witches really are loving light. Some witches are turn the other cheek. Be the bigger person. Let me say this, and let me be very real and transparent with you. Being the bigger person gets you beat up. Being the bigger person does not help you. Being the person is disrespectful for yourself. Being the bigger person gets you walked on and muddied on. Being a bigger person belittles you. It brings down your self-esteem. It brings down your self-confidence. And the person who has been on your back, that has been on you like white on rice, that person does not care about you. When witches say, oh, I forgive this person, not because I am okay with what they did, but I forgive that person so that I can have peace. You don't have peace. That's a lie. Did you know that? Did you know that's actually a lie? You don't have peace because that person still doesn't care. That person still has no remorse for what they did to you. Being a bigger person does not help the witch. It does not help the witch. As a witch, you have to have a backbone. As a witch, you cannot be a spineless jellyfish. You cannot be a punk, a sissy, a pussy. You can't. You have to stand up for yourself. You have to stand up for yourself. As a witch, you have to stand up for yourself because nobody is going to stand up for you. Nobody is going to stand up for you. As a witch, you have to have, it's a requirement to have a backbone. It's a requirement to stand up for yourself. You have to. Nobody else is going to stand up for you except for you. Now going back to how to make your spells work. It's a lot of work because witches have to be motivated to do real world action. If you want that business, that career to take off, you have to go for it. You have to be on fire. You have to be fierce. You have to be better than your peers. You have to want to be better than your peers. There is no other alternative. There is no other alternative. You have to be the best. You don't have to be egotistical or boastful or arrogant, but you have to be the best. You have to be the best. When a witch, and I've noticed this for years now, when a witch does real world action, their spells work 100% of the time. 100% of the time. Because they want it. They are hungry for it. When a witch gets into the details of the spell that they're casting and speak it in present tense as though it has already worked, that spell works 100% of the time. 100% of the time. You have to want it. You have to go for it. You have to be better than your peers because they are competing for the same spot that you want. They are not witches. They can't comprehend. They have no idea how to comprehend because they're not witches. They can't do what you do. They can't do what witches do. They will never be able to do what witches do because they don't have the initiative to go do real world action. Too many witches believe that they can just do a spell and their god, their goddess, Hecate, the queen of witches, will sort everything out. No. The god, the goddess, Hecate, will add their strengths to your own efforts. The key word being effort. You have to do something. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Ask yourself, what am I doing as a witch? What type of real world action am I doing to make my spells work? What am I not doing enough of? Because some witches, don't get me wrong, some of you witches are doing real world action, but it's not enough. It's not enough. How do you know that it's enough? When you see that your spell is working. Your chosen god or goddess or Hecate or ancestor or spirit animal or familiar will give you signs, if you are willing to listen and watch, that your spell is working. You know your spell is working when you see, hear, read, smell signs that are related to the spell that you did. So let's say this. You do a spell to get wealthy, and you have done all the real world action that your intuition told you to do, and then you find money. You are always finding money. Maybe today it's a $20 bill. Tomorrow it's a $50 bill. The next day it's a $100 bill. The next day is an envelope of $500. How do I know this? Because it happened to me. What I just told you was a real story that happened to me. One day I found $20. The next day I found $50. The next day I found $100. The next day I found a white envelope with 5 $100 bills in it. All real money. Why? Because it was connected to the money spell I did. That's how I knew my money spell was working. See? You will always see signs that your spell is working. Always. Don't tell me I don't see any evidence of my spell not working after you have done real world action. Now, if you have not done real world action, then of course you don't see any signs that your spell is working, because you didn't do any real world action. That's why your spell's not working. I don't care if you're paralyzed. I don't care if your legs don't work. I don't care if you're blind. Your spells can still work despite all of that. Despite all of that, your spells can work and will work if you do real world action. But you have to be, I believe you do have to be motivated to do real world action to make your spells work. But that's motivation that you can only find within yourself. You have to look within yourself. You have to want to look within yourself to find a motivation to do real world action. Witches never cast spells without the intention of doing real world action, so that their chosen god or goddess can add their strength to their efforts. All witches do real world action. All of them do. If a witch ever tells you all they did was snap their fingers or wiggle their nose to make a spell work, they're lying to you. They're lying to you. That's not how spells work. That's not how to make your spells work. You can't just snap your fingers or wiggle your nose to make a spell work. It's not going to work. You have to do something that I am famous for saying, and I do take full credit for this also, because I came up with it and I deserve the credit. And I'm going to always get what's due to me. You have to do real world action. That's how you make your spells work. That is the only way to make your spells work. When your chosen god or goddess or ancestor or spirit animal or familiar sees that you are doing real world action, they will add their strength to your own efforts, and your spell, ritual, hex, or curse will manifest as you intended. The only time you never do real world action is when you are casting a hex or a curse. Hecate, the queen of witches, takes care of that. You never take a curse into your hands. You never do real world action to cast a curse or a hex. You can petition your chosen god or goddess or ancestor or familiar or spirit animal or Hecate, the queen of witches, to act on the request to curse someone or to hex someone, but the witch, him or herself, are not to take that into their own hands. So if you cast a spell on somebody to crash if you cast a curse on someone to crash their car, you don't cut their brakes. You don't cut their tires. You let the queen of witches take care of somebody going off of a bridge or crashing into a tree or putting a bullet in their head, in their own head. I know that sounds graphic, but it's true. Listen, I'm a Scorpio, okay? I am a Scorpio, so I come off pretty strong, pretty passionate, pretty, there's a lot of real talk out of this Scorpio, okay? I am a Scorpio. I'm proud to be a Scorpio. Scorpios are very direct and honest, so sometimes I might say something that you might be shocked or surprised or even angered about, but that's my way of speaking. I speak real. Okay, I speak real. So what I just said, I mean it. You do not take a curse or a hex into your own hands. Your chosen deity takes care of someone once you have put a curse or hex on them, and they will let you know that the curse or hex reach your target. You will either be an audience member, you will either witness the curse or hex taking effect, but you yourself as the witch never ever, and I do mean ever, take it in your hands to cut somebody's brakes, to slash somebody's tires. We do not cut anything. We give our enemies over to our chosen deity, God, goddess, Hecate, ancestor, familiar, spirit animal, but we don't take it upon ourselves to do real world action. Witches only do real world action with spells and rituals. That's it. That's it. So I think I talked enough about how to make your spells work. I believe I laid it all out. How to make your spells work and why your spells don't work. How to correct spells when they don't go well. The number one way to correct a spell that has gone wrong is to go back to that spell and look over if you missed something, or if you left something out, or maybe you wasn't detailed enough, and then cast the spell again. So tonight is also a full moon. So that means that the goddess Hecate will be at the height of her power. Tonight is a full moon. A full moon. So thank you, witches here on YouTube who came on to join me here live. I now release you into the rest of your afternoon. Once again, my name is High Priestess Autumn Phoenix, and I'll talk to you with you soon. Bye, everyone.